This is the I Read Comic Books podcast, coming to you not live from the internet. I'm Kara Szymborski, your interim host today because Mike Rapin is on site at the C2E2 Expo in Chicago with Paul. So we'll get some fun reportage back from them when they're back. But today I am joined by two princesses who are really knights in disguise. Welcome, Kait Lamphere.
Hello.
And Paloma Deerfield.
Hello, hello, hello.
Did I say your name right? Oh my God.
Yes, you did.
Thank you. Okay. I said that. I was like, oh, as I'm saying your name, I realized that is the name that a princess who's really a knight would have. Like, that's extraordinary. I did not plan that one.
Thank you.
Well, I am delighted to be speaking with you both about comic books today. It is Star Wars week. The artificially constructed holiday that Disney has gone all in on as we approach May the 4th, as in May the 4th be with you. But everyone who's currently like twitching a little bit right now saying, oh God, no, a whole episode about Star Wars. This is not that thing. I promise. I am just bringing it up because I'm really excited about it. But anyways, let's talk about not Star Wars comics for a little bit. Let me ask the legally mandated question. How have you been? How have comic books been? Let's start with you, Paloma.
I've been pretty dang great, just living life, taking it day by day. Nothing witty to say here, just binging manga on my phone, really, which leads me to what I read this week was so much Dandadan, specifically Dandadan Volume 7, which just came out, and then I read a ton of chapters that have been released. Viz has like a web only section now for certain manga like Golden Kamui and Dandadan, so I can't read it on the Shonen Jump app.
Spicy stuff, perhaps?
No. Oh, I wonder. That's maybe a good point. Maybe the rated older teen, rated M stuff is on this, but I'm just on my Safari web browser on my phone, so that glitches sometimes.
You're reading manga on your Safari web browser on your phone?
Yes, because it's not in the app, but it's I'm paying for the service.
Okay. I'm trying as much as possible to leave the judgment out of my voice, but it's fine. I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure that's the optimal reading experience.
It's not, but, we make do. But yes, Dandadan Volume 7, I'm catching up with this series. I really love the art. Brief Little Pitch is a shonen series where you follow Momo, a girl that believes in spirits because of her grandma, but does not believe in the occult alien stuff. And then a nerdy boy named Okarun, who believes in aliens and the occult, but does not believe in spirits. And then we come to find out both things exist and are a threat to mankind. And they just grow with each other. They develop their powers. Okarun gets cursed, so that's a whole thing. And we meet like a zany cast of characters. There's zany hijinks, but also world-threatening aliens and yokai. It's a very fun and entertaining series with like some romantic comedy elements that I really, really enjoy.
I mean, I was going to say when you were describing the two main characters having opposing worldview, I was like, oh, enemies to lovers, Paloma?
I wish. They're kind of like begrudging friends to like, oh, this person understands me. It's good stuff. I will say Volume 1 does have like trigger warning, like assault vibes, but nothing happens. It's unfortunately a classic
assault
shonen
vibes,
setup.
Paloma?
Yeah. Aliens, probes, but nothing happens. That's the one big trigger warning for like the first volume for people trying to get into it. And then not much of that has happened since, luckily, but we can't escape shonen, unfortunately, in that regard. I would say if you don't mind that, the artwork is like stunning. The aliens are very creepy and gross. I feel like it's good for Jujutsu Kaisen fans that are tired of the pain.
Oh.
But yeah, that's what I've been reading. That's what I've enjoyed this week. Kait, anything cool for you? Have you been? Have comics been?
Good, yeah. I am ramping up for the summer, making plans and starting to do stuff. I've been, we say, up north in Michigan, which means that you literally go north to where there are more lakes and there's more cold weather and more wind, and more wine. But so I've been up north once already this year. Plan to go up a few more times, doing some other stuff. It's very exciting to get outside. But I have been reading quite a few comics lately. I most recently read Camp Spirit by Excel Lenore and Cab. Cab only did the colors. Excel did everything else. This was the IRCB Goodreads Reading Challenge pick from Matt D. So if you're on the Goodreads group, check out the reading challenge list for this year. It's pretty good. I've enjoyed everything that everyone has put on it so far. This is being the latest one. I kept not picking this up physically from the library like for years. Like the cover on this book is adorable, and for some reason there was just like I'd pick it up and I'd be like, not this time, and I'd put it back. And I don't know why, because it was adorable.
Sometimes it's just not the right moment.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'd already have 12 things in my arms, I'm like, there's no more space in my arms for this book. So I finally checked it out on Hoopla. It's on there if you have a Hoopla account. And I read this. And this is about a teen being forced by her mom to work as a camp counselor for the summer, and she dreads it. But once she's there, her group of campers loves her. And of course, this is a teen YA supernatural book, so she has to find the supernatural mystery and investigate it. And she thinks that there's something going on with the camp director. And she starts investigating that. More creepy stuff starts happening. And there are just a lot of details of the story that really worked for me. The protagonist has this grunge aesthetic in her clothes, so I also had a grunge aesthetic as a teenager. So that was just myself in this story. And her little group of campers, they all have wildly different personalities. Kind of reminds me of Lumberjanes a little bit.
I was going to say
they're all a little extreme in their own way.
I was going to say, how is this book different from Lumberjanes? But then you used the word creepy, and I was like, oh, Lumberjanes perhaps not creepy.
So it's maybe this book is maybe Lumberjanes, except that it focuses on a camp counselor that is trying to wrangle them. And so on top of that, there's also the supernatural aspect. They're in nature, and there's a nice slow burn sapphic romance in this book, which I just loved.
Yes,
very cute. And so this is Camp Spirit. It was originally published in French in Canada, and if you watch the art really closely, you'll occasionally get little bits of French in the background, but otherwise they translated it really nicely. And I've read other books by Cab before, the colorist, and I love what they do, so I was happy to pick this up, and lo and behold, they colored this book, and I had no idea when I picked it up.
A magical surprise.
Yeah. And coincidentally, the other book that I was reading this week was Oja Woja by Mags Visaggio and Jen St. Ange. And they're very similar books, supernatural, two girl protagonists. So if you want some supernatural thematic reading for to start your summer off with, here's two books for you. I
was going to say, this is directly in your wheelhouse, Kait. I feel like this is just the Kait themed extravaganza.
Yep. And this was Camp Spirit was a great book to start off the summer with. Takes place in the summer. And then Oja Woja, I feel like it's a little bit spookier. It's more of a fall read, but man, if you're gonna get some supernatural teen camp vibes going, then you might as well throw that in there too.
I mean, I could, because the algorithm knows me, as I'm sure the algorithm knows all of you, and the algorithm has been feeding me only 6 months till Halloween content.
Oh my god!
So I'm ready for the summer, but also it's what Disney usually starts dropping their Halloween merch in July because the Halloween party starts in August. So it's basically yeah, we're halfway to Halloween, guys. We can start being spooky. It's fine. No, I realized while I was considering my summer wardrobe, and I the bulk of my clothing is black t-shirts with some kind of graphic design on them, but I ended up recently with two sort of similar vibey dresses that are flowy and tiered, and they're black or almost black, and there's some kind of flora all over them. And I was like, oh, is my summer vibe summer witch? Am I just it's just Halloween all the time now? Okay. I think I'm just gonna commit to this aesthetic now.
I love it.
Just
I
gonna own it.
also looked at a whole bunch of like mushroom and bee sweatshirts recently,
Ooh.
but I didn't end up buying anything. But I'm definitely also on like a botanical design kick.
Ooh, you should look at we're gonna get back to comics in a second, I promise, but you should look at this designer Morning Witch. It's like I think their account is Morning Witchy
Yeah.
online. And they do like really, really cool like gender neutral botanical clothing, like button ups and sweaters and stuff. And I really like that they use like 100% cotton. Like almost none of their stuff is plastic. So that's my
Ooh.
thought for those of you who are also into the summer witch aesthetic right now.
I'm pretty sure that this is the company that I had a few friends wear button-up shirts for like in their wedding. Like that was
Yep.
their wedding wear with the button-up shirts from Morning Witch. It's very
What a
cute.
delight. I'm so glad we could share this PSA with everyone. Well, my week has already been 100% Star Wars. This weekend was, I don't know if this is like across the board for all minor league baseball, but my local minor league baseball team had their Star Wars night, their annual Star Wars night. And I went last year and it was like my favorite thing because there's like characters and costumes going around and they have like the themed music, and up on the board when they show you like the picture of the opposing player, every single opposing player was just like superimposed with a stormtrooper. So it was just the whole team. It's just
Incredible.
stormtroopers coming up to bat, and they like CGI'd the home team in like rebel starship pilot outfits. It was super cute. And like the thing that I flipped out over the most was the mascot had a Star Wars themed outfit. I got up close and got to take a picture. They actually like duct taped his head to make it look like the mascot was a Darth Maul version of the mascot. I was just like, how expensive was this mascot head that you could use like colored duct tape to create this for one night only? I love it. I love the commitment to detail. So it was a delight. And I'm also like, by the time you listen to this episode, I will have seen the series finale of Star Wars The Bad Batch on Disney Plus, and I will have probably cried or like laid down on the floor to like just drown in a pool of my own tears because I am like not ready for this finale. And then Phantom Menace is back in theaters, so I have tickets to see Phantom Menace, and I realized I didn't see Phantom Menace in theaters when it was originally out. I first saw Phantom Menace. I remember this so vividly. I saw Phantom Menace for the first time in my friend's apartment. Her dad had gotten a like Chinatown bootleg DVD of Phantom Menace,
Wow.
and so we were watching like the super grainy version with like subtitles on, and I just like that was my first introduction to the prequels.
Wow.
Yeah.
So which one was better, the grainy bootleg version or the in-theater version?
Well, I mean, the in-theater version, that's on May 4th. That has yet to come. I have yet to experience it. But you know what? I'm there for I know I understand in my heart of hearts that The Phantom Menace is a bad movie, but because I saw it when I was like 10 and was the perfect age to see it, I really love it. Like, it is not good. I understand that, but I am going purely to see Duel of the Fates in like loud blasting sound in my face. I want to be in a room full of Star Wars nerds who are like paying money to see a movie that they already own at home. Like, yes, let's do this. Let's have the moment of, ooh, when Darth Maul shows up and lights that second end of his lightsaber. Ah, I'm so ready. I'm so ready. So I actually did not read a Star Wars comic for this show, though. I did read a book that is about fairy tales, which is why I kicked us off with our little princess and knights introduction. I read Castle Waiting by Linda Medley, and I am like 99% sure I read this before, but I thought I read it as a teenager. But looking at the publication date, it was published in like 2013, and I was definitely not a child then. So it feels like a book I would have read as a kid. So this book is like black and white, really beautiful line work and lettering that's done in a style that's like very legible, but is also clearly inspired by medieval calligraphy. So when you're reading it, you're like, oh, yes, I am reading a fairy tale. I am reading ye old Grimm's stories redone for a modern audience. And it is just such a satisfying book. It's like retelling the fairy tales that we already know, but kind of like weaving them all into the same story and grounding it in this just really nice slice of life. Not it realism feels like too strong a word, but like the first story that they start with is Sleeping Beauty. And you're seeing, like, okay, here's the princess, and she's getting all these blessings from the 12 fairies. And the bad one comes in and says, okay, you're going to prick your finger on a spindle and then you're going to die, and like all that. So then they get to the point where it's 100 years later, and the prince shows up to the castle and kisses the princess, and you just like see they get like a little like wide-eyed, glassy-eyed, and they just have like little hearts illustrated between them, so you can tell they're in this like enchantment of love. And the princess comes out of the castle and everyone's so excited to see her because the whole castle was enchanted also to be asleep for 100 years. So they've just woken up. They're like, oh man, this is great. 100 years are up, the princess is awake, let's get back to business. And the princess like comes out, and like this is just one of those moments where you're like, yes, this is what the comic medium does so well. They have like a whole panel where it's just like the all the castle attendants, like you're seeing them lined up listening to the princess, and like there's just block of text that's in the background that's like the princess just gushing about like, oh man, you guys, I just met this prince, I just found out his name, and we're just so in love, this is like Romeo and Juliet but better. Just like this block of text, and then in between like the text background there's speech bubbles coming up from the courtiers being like, huh, what, what's she talking about? And then she like finishes her monologue by saying, anyways, so I'm gonna go with him now, bye. And there's then four identical panels, one after the other, of just the look of the shocked faces of the courtiers, just like they're frozen in shock. And because there's that four panel sequence of the same thing, you can really like feel those beats of time passing. Oh god, I love when comics do time travel. And it's just like the final one is one of them just being like, what? And then it's like end of chapter and you're like, ah. So like just like really cute moments of humor like that are just really delightful. And because this comic is, I think, 375 pages, you really get time to like meet the characters. Like our after that, we like kind of pick up the story that was like introducing the castle and why the castle is there, castle waiting, the titular castle. And it's basically like if you don't have a place to go, you can find a place in castle waiting. So our like main protagonist is a woman that we're like meeting on her journey to go to the castle, and over the passage of time of her journey we find out that she's pregnant. And when she gets to the castle, we find out that it's like you can see like her pregnancy growing to show the passage of time, like she's been journeying for basically like the full term of her pregnancy. And when she gets there and they take her in, she's just like very matter of factly like, yeah, the baby is like I loved the dad, and the dad is not my husband, so I have run away from my husband. And they just like say it so matter of factly. And like during that opening story I was just like, man, it is still, I think, pretty rare to see like a pregnant woman in media in like any capacity that's not like the wife one where she shows up to say like three things in a cop movie or whatever. So To just like have her be the center of this story and to be like really upfront about like the circumstances of her pregnancy in a way that wasn't like, it didn't feel heavy-handed or overwrought. She was just like, yep, and I'm here now, and I'm like really excited about this baby. And then because the whole comic is black and white, I really appreciate that the author like takes care to mention when something is a color that you wouldn't expect it to be. Like the baby is born and the little like handmaidens are like circled around it and they're like, oh, it's green. And I was like, Shrek, is that you? But like, you know, had they not said, "Oh my God, he's green," I wouldn't have known because it's a black and white comic book and there's not like shading. It's more like if something needs to be gray, there's like lines across it, that kind of book. Um, but that was a delight. Or like, you know, one of these more like slice of life moments is like all the boys are out, and so it's just like new mom and the woman who's like Simple Simon's mom, because you're seeing all these fairy tale characters that you know and love, like have the kitchen to themselves, and they like kind of touch on the new mom being depressed, and I was like, oh, are we talking about real life in a fairy tale? Oh my goodness, because postpartum depression is a very real thing that affects a lot of people, and you're putting it in your comic book as a matter of fact thing. So just like, ooh, mind blown kind of moment. That should not be a mind blown moment. Like, why don't we just like, I don't know, have more moments like this in stories? So to like address this moment of like feeling like just totally disconnected from herself, the like cute story beat that they do is Simple Simon's mom being like, I know just the thing. And she like pulls out a bottle of henna and she's like, let's dye our hair. And like, obviously, dyeing your hair is not going to cure postpartum depression, but it was just like this really sweet moment where they just like had fun dyeing each other's hair. And they were like, ooh, look at you, you strawberry blonde vixen. Like, we'll be so cute. All the boys will think we're so hot. And then one of the boys walks in and screams and runs back out again. So, you know, it's really lovely. And like, I really love fairy tale retelling. So this was right up my alley. But like, guys, this is a really nice fairy tale retelling. And it is, I think, all ages, because I think like younger readers wouldn't necessarily pick up on some of the jokes that they're dropping in. But older readers, like me, are going to like, you know, chuckle at some of the wordplay that's happening. So, yes, Castle Waiting, thumbs up, highly recommend.
This is another book that I kept picking up physically at my library and being like, oh, no, not today, and putting it back. And this has gone on for years. I think I've picked it up about 4 times. So it's good to know that my my intuition is correct on this and I need to commit to it.
It is a lovely, like we said, perfect like rainy day book. Like cloudy day, rainy day, you don't really want to do anything. You just want to like be surrounded by the media equivalent of a hug. This is that hug.
That sounds great. Good afternoon. You know,
it's a good afternoon.
Big stack of comics, some tea, sound of rain, not have to be out in it.
The dream. But Kait, what book would you take with you on this next reading adventure? What is the top of your pile?
The top of my pile is finally Black Cloak, Volume 1 by Callie Thompson and Meredith McLaren. And I have heard that this book is fantastic. So I finally checked it out on Hoopla. This is another book, the saga of books I've almost read before. And I kept not picking this one up, partially because I kept confusing it with Black Magic. And so I was like, no, I've read this book before. And then being like, no, this title is different. But then I still didn't pick it up because something about these covers, like I couldn't tell what what was on the cover of the first one. Like I didn't like stop and focus on it to like take it in. And when you just glance at it, it's not like obviously Captain America on a Captain America cover or something like that. But what I think it's showing is somebody who's like drowning and surrounded by like mermaid silhouettes, which is very intriguing. And I just like haven't like taken a minute to process this before. So, looking into the description of this book, it's a detective story that takes place in a fantasy world, and it's got noir vibes, and it has mermaids. And every piece of that sounds fantastic.
Oh yeah, I mean, you had me at mermaids, so
Right. So this sounds great. So I'm finally going to take the time and finally read it.
nice. We have some best friends of the show in the Discord joining us with their top of pile. Danny is going to be reading Space Ghost #1. Aaron is reading Lubik? Shubeck Lubeck? How do I say this thing? This title that I've not heard of. And who is reading The Uncanny X-Men at the State Fair of Texas from C2E2. We have a cover of that dropped in our Discord live chat, and may I just say, thumbs up. Looks delightful. Feel like X-Men is having a bit of a moment with X-Men 97, but that could just be my skewed perception because I talked about X-Men for like an hour last weekend on this very show. So we don't have to like go back into that. But yes, thumbs up for the X-Men. Thumbs up for X-Men 97. I won't say spoilers here. I'll just say, oh, big feelings. But Paloma, what's the top of your pile?
Top of my pile is a graphic novel that just came out. I think it might be in the upper all ages range, but it's Punk Rock Karaoke by Bianca Eunice.
This
And
already sounds great.
yeah,
The title alone. Yes.
yeah. And the brief synopsis is we follow Ariel Grace Jones. They maybe just graduated, and so it's them and their bandmates hoping to have like a great summer and get scouted and kind of make it out of the south side of Chicago. Art is phenomenal. Bianca Eunice, I think, does a lot of zine work, and I'm sure most of us have seen their art online. They've done like quite a few like relatable like comics about like growing up, a lot of like comics and like zines on like the Black experience, especially like the Black queer experience. And I'm really excited to see their like more long form storytelling. So I'm very stoked for this.
Nice. I have a quick question for you guys before I go into my top of pile. How did you choose these top of your piles? I'm always so curious because I know like sometimes you go into a shop, sometimes you're looking at Hoopla, sometimes you're just looking at your own bookcase, me. But how did you choose how did you choose these tops of your piles?
I tend to have a stack of things out from the library. So it legitimately is like whether it's on Hoopla or an actual stack on a shelf, it's things that I already have that are sitting there waiting to be read. And I either pick the one that I have the most to say about or I literally pick what's on top.
The true spirit of top of your pile.
Yeah.
I would say for this one specifically, I work at a local comic shop. So Tuesday, the day before new comic book day, we're unpacking our boxes and seeing what we have stacked. And I saw Punk Rock Karaoke and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I wasn't keeping track of this release date. So that's how I choose sometimes often if I'm choosing something current on the top of my pile that's about to drop. It's because I saw it at work.
I mean,
Nice.
and you get to see everything new. So
Yeah.
it's like we're just seeing what does the library have? You're seeing it all.
That's true.
You've got the newer content, I feel like Paloma, and then I'll have the content that has not only been around for a minute, but it has already also like been around the community.
Yeah. Yeah, but sometimes it's nice to bring up those things that you haven't thought about in a while. Like I said, like I just read Castle Waiting, which got published over 10 years ago now. And, you know, maybe somebody wasn't reading comics 10 years ago, but they'd like to read a comic book from 10 years ago now.
I also feel like my reading tastes have changed a lot. So I am reading things that were published 10 years ago that I either wouldn't have liked 10 years ago, or I didn't read, or I wouldn't have picked up, or I'm rereading things and I'm getting different things out of them. So I feel like there's something to be said for looking at older comics still.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Like I got very annoyed with the big two for a while. So I feel like I've mostly been reading not big two, but then recently, because of this very show, getting back into some DC stuff. And I'm like, oh no, I forgot. I did like this. There was a reason that I read it. Or like, getting into some Marvel stuff, mostly when it's recommended by either somebody on the show or one of our fabulous listeners. Drop a note in our Discord if you've got X-Men recommendations for the team. And, or things like, you know what I almost put on my top of my pile, but didn't because I know that in my heart of hearts, it'll be a hot minute till I actually read it. I am like so sure that I read the X-Men story Life Death at some point, because when I saw like the cover of it recently, I was like, I definitely read this. I do not remember it. It was probably part of like a Storm collection when they were rebooting Storm a while back. I'm pretty sure that's where I saw it. But like, I said there wouldn't be X-Men 97 spoilers, but I think you can tell just looking at an episode title list that they do address the life death story. And so I'm like, oh man, I kind of want to see like more of Forge and Storm.
Oh yeah.
And like whatever trippy psychedelic bad guy thing she's like addressing to address her own thing. So I'm just kind of like, okay, how long ago was that comic published? Like the 80s or like the 90s? Like before my time of reading Marvel comics, but at some point I should probably read that one. I do like knowing where the big stories are from. But the thing that I did pick for the top of my pile is a Star Wars comic. I mean, you all knew that was coming, right? Star Wars week. Got to read
theme.
Strong theme. Got to read a Star Wars comic. So this is why I said, like, ooh, top of my pile. I look at my own bookcase because my hobby is buying comics and then not reading them for 6 months to 6 years.
Yep.
So
Real.
6 years. Yeah, that sounds right. Same.
It just helped me. The algorithm knows me. It just helps me that periodically the algorithm surfaces me like that text meme of just like, books are like fine wine. They need to be aged. Sometimes it's just not the right moment to drink them. I'm like, do not tell me that. That is terrific rationale that I will continue buying these books and not reading them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So like, I think last year I bought all 3 volumes of Star Wars Lost Stars, which is the manga adaptation of the novel by Claudia Gray. The adaptation manga version is by Yusaku Komiyama. And Lost Stars, I've definitely talked about Lost Stars on this show before, even though it's not a comic, because it is my favorite Star Wars novel of the Disney era to date. And that is entirely because it is a well-written young adult star-crossed lovers romance. So our heroes, or is one of them a villain, are the coolest names ever, by the way, Thane Kyrell and Sienna Ree. And they grow up together and they're like, it's like friends to enemies to lovers kind of thing, because one of them ends up in the rebellion and one of them is an Imperial, but they keep reconnecting on their home world. Oh yes, that is, the gasp is exactly what I'm looking for here. And it's just like, I have the audiobook of this. I don't normally re-listen to audiobooks. I've re-listened to this one like 4 times because
Incredible.
It's like, I know, because it like also the Star Wars audiobooks have the sound effects, so they have the music swelling, and the little, if there's a droid, it goes boop 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 boop, and so it's just great. So all this to say, I already know this story very well. I love this story. It does, like, every time I re-listen to it, I'm like, is the ending going to get me again? Is the ending going to get me again? And it gets me again. So I'm like, all right, time for the manga. Is the manga going to get me as hard as the audiobook version? But it just like, it has like, I feel like a manga adaptation was like the right move to make with this one. It just, I don't know. I feel like manga is way more expressive than Western style comics if you're trying to do like romance or big feelings of any kind. And this whole book is big feelings. So I'm just like, yes, give me big feelings, give me big eyes, give me like a wistful, like wind blowing through the hair situation. Like, yes, I'm here for it. I am so like, I'm ready. I'm ready to read this book. It is Star Wars week. I am committing to reading Lost Stars. I can do it for myself. I can do it for the rebellion. Big feelings about this book, gang. I'm really, really hyped.
That sounds amazing. And I'm looking for the audiobook now on my apps.
Right? Oh my god. It's so good. What are you guys doing for Star Wars week? If anything.
That's a big question. I don't think I have any specific plans.
Yeah, maybe I'll read a comic. Maybe I'll pop in on something. Maybe get caught up on some Dr. Aphra.
Oh yeah. Oh
I
man.
like her.
I mean, who doesn't? When? All right, that's the question. When is Dr. Aphra getting a television or film something?
Right?
Yeah.
Danny, our proof listener, tapping on his watch like, come on, Disney. You want to.
I'm a little behind on some of the shows too. Let's see here. I haven't watched The Bad Batch at all. I haven't watched.
Kait.
There was one that was made for a younger audience after The Bad Batch started.
Is that the like the Resistance one, or yeah, there's like a young kids show that was like based on being in the Resistance, or maybe it was like the Young Jedi one, and one of them is like the blue furry guy who keeps showing up on social media. Maybe you're making a face.
Familiar. The Cookie Monster?
No. Oh man, Cookie Monster as Jedi. Like,
oh no. No cookies would be safe.
That's a meme I want to see.
But I'm actually a little bit behind on. I haven't finished the animated Clone Wars yet either. Like I'm like a season. I think I have a season left.
I caught up on I rewatched Clone Wars and then Rebels so that I would be ready for Ahsoka. But I had mistimed my rewatch, so I did pause in Clone Wars at the point where Ahsoka wasn't going to be in like all the episodes, and then skipped ahead to Rebels. And then after Ahsoka aired, I went back to finish the rewatch of Clone Wars because I had not seen the final season, and I had forgotten that the final season is where you do meet the Bad Batch before they get like a soft launch before you get into the Bad Batch show. So I'm really glad that I did that. But big feelings. I feel like Dave Filoni, the showrunner for those, is like doing his best to fix all the problems of the Star Wars movies, because there are many problems with the Star Wars movies. But the biggest one is probably the plot and character development, which is like, pretty fundamental to any kind of storytelling. And I feel like the prequels in particular, Dave Filoni has made it his personal mission in life to like make them make sense. Because like, if you're just watching Attack of the Clones, which is not a good film, and then going right into Revenge of the Sith, which is also really not a good film, and you're like, wait, how did we get here? We skipped the entire Clone War, and all of a sudden Anakin is killing children? And we're all just like, what happened? So I feel like with the Clone Wars TV show, you kind of get to see how that war went and like how it changed him. But this ain't about him. This is about the Bad Batch, which I must insist you watch because it is a ship full of tropes who are all dad. They are all dad in different ways. Like I saw someone online calling them the Dad Batch, and I was like,
Absolutely.
yes,
Yeah.
precisely. That is the squad. And it's very like Firefly in the whole like tropes on a ship situation. Like you're like, oh, that one's the grumpy sniper one. This one is the neurodivergent seeming techie one. This one is the dad one who looks like Rambo. This one is
question.
Yes.
Are there ships on this ship? May we ship the people on the ship?
They are all clones of each. They are all clones.
So that would be a little strange.
However, there are like other characters who pop in where there are perhaps some feelings that you can pursue in that regard, but it's really mostly about like, the first episode of the Bad Batch, so I don't feel like I'm spoiling anything here, is like they meet a girl, and the reason I'm saying like, oh, it's the Dad Batch is because then their mission becomes protect the girl. But like she also learns and grows and like protects them too, and it's like a whole found family situation, except it's they're all related, so it's fine because they're all clones and it's fine. And it's just, I got a lot of feelings about the Bad Batch, guys. This is why I'm telling you I'm not prepared for the finale, and I'll be like a puddle on the floor.
So is this the actual finale of the entire show? There's not going to be any more of it?
So it's the finale of the show, but I don't know,
But
gang.
it's the Star Wars universe. There might be more.
I mean, there had better be more, because there is absolutely no way they can wrap up the 6 different like hanging plot threads in 25 minutes or however long a standard animated episode is. So like all the comments I've been seeing on social media are like, yo, this had better be like an hour-long show. Like there is no way that we're getting through this otherwise. So here's my prediction, which again will be a moot point by the time you listen to this. I think that it's just gonna be an emotional wreck, and then they're gonna like open the door to an additional story, like whatever characters survive, because it's Dave Filoni and I don't trust him, and I know somebody's gonna die, or more somebodies than one. Like I know someone's dying, I just need to like know. Whoever survives, like that might be an opening to continue that story in a different series. That's what I think is going to happen. We'll see how right I am by the time this airs. But yeah, totally worth your time. And I know people like didn't like the Bad Batch because it like season 1 or 2, if people said it was slow, I don't think so, because I was just so like emotionally invested right away with these characters. Like there's one character who, mild spoilers, like is kind of like the Raphael in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He's like, I got to do better on my own. I don't need you, Leonardo. And so like does his own like solo walk for a little bit. And the amount of emotional attention I paid to this character the whole time, I was just like, I just need a redemption arc. I just want a redemption arc. And everyone's like, what are you talking about? I'm just like, I just need this redemption arc. And now it's been like a 3-season long redemption arc, and I'm like, I feel so vindicated. And also, he's definitely going to die, right? Like this is, you don't put this much effort into a character, Dave Filoni, I know you're going to take him away from me. So anyway, big feelings about Bad Batch. Send me kind words, because I will definitely be processing the finale for a while. Now that I've successfully turned this entire episode into a Star Wars episode.
I feel like that's always your goal.
You know, somebody's got to do it, and Mike put me in charge, and this is what he gets. Any final words to our listeners before we wrap for this week, gang?
Do some seasonal reading, whether that's because it's rainy or because it's Star Wars week.
Heck yeah.
I'm reading Star Wars this week. You convinced me.
My work here is done. All right. With that, thank you, Zander, for editing. Thank you, Danny, for proof listening. Thank you, Kait and Paloma, for joining me. Thank all of you, dear listeners, and may the Force be with you always.